Happy Monday. It is August 4th and time for your Monday market update. Thanks for watching. Let's take a quick look at our McHenry County numbers for the last 7 days before we dive into what is happening nationwide. We had 169 new listings. We had 137 go under contract, 143 closed sales, 56 price changes, 5 expireds, and 39 on the private network. Now, we are again seeing these more new listings than under contract. So we're seeing this trend. This is probably about 6 to 8 weeks that we're now seeing more new listings than under contract. We're seeing strong closed sales, but of course this is the time of year that we're gonna see a lot of closings due to the April market and the early summer closing before school starts. So that number being elevated is not a surprise. The price changes at 56. Now that's what we're gonna talk about. We're seeing some trends happening that we need to watch carefully. Now it's the first week of the new month. So of course I'm gonna look at the numbers from last month because InfoSparks, which is the part of the MLS where it gives us our data, updates each month. So now we have the data from July. Now if we look at the rolling month, 12-month data, you can see that prices are still up year over year. However, if you look at the month to month, we can see that prices are definitely flatlining and even coming down a smidge. So if we look at the average sales price, it is in Crystal Lake in 2024. So July of 2024, the average sales price in Crystal Lake was $398,000. This year, July, was $397,000. So a very small amount, but it's like staying solid. It's like flat. We have not seen much price growth over the last year, July 2024 to July 2025. So prices are not going up like they were. Doesn't mean they're coming down, but they're not going up. In Cary in July 2024, it was $405,000 was the average sales price. July 2025, $395,000. That's a big difference. So we're starting to see this trend. Algonquin was $446,000 in July of 2024, $465,000. Now they have some new builds there, so the new builds are always going to kind of change our data a little bit, but it's still relevant. They have more new builds there than we do here in Crystal Lake or Cary. Woodstock last year was $347,000 was the average sales price. This year it's $377,000, so it's up in Woodstock, but that's a more affordable area, and affordability is the big issue that we've been talking about all year long. It's just too expensive for people to buy a house right now, so that's holding a lot of people back. So the rolling data year over year is showing flat price growth. It's showing an average sales price. Now the rolling 12 months is a different mathematical equation than the month-to-month data, so it's gonna be off a little bit. But year over year, it's showing $407,000 for our average sales price in Crystal Lake, both June of this year and July. So it's still we're not seeing any growth month over month. In Cary, it's $389,000 in June of this year to $388,000. In Woodstock, it was $359,000 to $362,000. In Algonquin, it was $423,000 to $424,000. So our prices are starting to level out. Now there's a trend that we need to watch. Now, while real estate is highly localized, we still have to look at national trends. Now, there was an article that came out in the New York Times that said that prices are up year over year, 2% nationwide. Now, that is true. But that's like saying that the average temperature in the United States today is 75 degrees. That is true, but it doesn't really give you a clear picture of what's happening in our real estate market. We have 110 of the top 300 metro markets in the United States are seeing price declines. That's up from 30 cities in January. So in June, 110 US cities saw prices decline. Now, most of those cities are in Florida, Texas, California, but those are the areas that tend to change first. So we have to watch what's happening there and take note of it and be aware of it, that it is headed this direction. So in 2008, those were the areas that first saw prices go down. It eventually came here. In 2020, when prices went up, those were the areas that saw the biggest price jumps first, then it came here. So now we're seeing price reductions or prices coming down or flatlining in those areas. We need to take note that is probably coming here. We are seeing our market kind of flatline. We're not seeing prices decrease, but we're not seeing them go up like they were. So we needed this to happen. It's a bit of a normalization of our market. You know, houses selling for $50,000 over list price in 2 days is not a normal sustainable market that we can have continue because it just becomes too expensive. Now we do have rates coming down last week very subtly as a result of the Fed meeting. They did not cut rates, but it's speculation that they will be cutting rates that's causing rates to go down. Now, what will rates do when they actually do cut the rates, if they cut them in August and September? Now, actually, there's no August meeting, so September and October. If they cut rates in September and October, which they did last year, rates went down leading up to the rate cut, the actual rate cut, and then mortgage rates went up after the prime rate was cut. Because when the prime rate is cut, that causes money to be cheaper, that causes people to go out and spend money and go buy things, which causes inflation to go up. When inflation goes up, mortgage rates tend to go up. So we're gonna see the mortgage rates come down leading up into the cuts, and maybe they will continue to go down. It will all depend on the jobs reports and some other factors with the economy to see what mortgage rates actually do after the Feds cut the prime rate. But just because the prime rate is cut does not mean that mortgage rates will come down. In fact, last year it was quite the opposite. We're seeing inventory up across our area. In Crystal Lake, we're at 1.6 months inventory. Now again, we measure our inventory and how many months it takes to sell out of whatever is currently listed if nothing else hits the market. 4 to 6 months inventory is a fair and balanced market. Anything under 4 months inventory is a seller's market. Anything over 6 months inventory is a buyer's market. Can you tell I've said this 10,000 times in the last few years? Yes, but even though our inventory is only at 1.6 months inventory, which is still very much a seller's market, and we don't see that changing very rapidly, but it's a pendulum, right? We go to it from a seller's market to a buyer's market to a seller's market. We're always kind of this pendulum. Now, it takes a very long time for the pendulum to swing back, and I don't think we're going to see a buyer's market anytime soon, but the pendulum is starting to move. We are at 1.6 months inventory. That is up 33% year over year. That is in Crystal Lake. That's our inventory. We have 1.4 months inventory in Cary. That is up 55% year over year. In Woodstock, it's 1.7 months inventory. That's up 21%. In Algonquin, it's 1.4 months inventory. That is up 7%. The market time is also going up. We're at 36 days on market on average in Crystal Lake. That's up 12%. Cary's up to 30 days. That's up 36%. Woodstock and Algonquin are both seeing a moderate change at only 34 days on market and 37. So not a whole lot changing there. Here's something also that's interesting. The percent of the average list price. When I talk to people, they're saying, boy, it seems like we're seeing a lot of price changes. We are. We're seeing more price changes than we've seen in a long time. And in fact, the average closed sales price of a home right now in Crystal Lake is actually 99%. That is down 0.7%. Not a lot. Again, these are very, very small market changes, very small, but they're changes and we need to watch. This is what's happening. So when you're looking at the market and deciding if you're going to buy or sell or whatever it is that you're going to do, you need to keep in mind the trends that are happening. When we're pricing homes in this market, it's important to price a home based on the market that we're going into, not the market that we're coming out of. If you price too high in this market, you are going to sit on the market. It's going to cost you money. You're going to sit on the market longer. You're going to end up doing more price reductions, and your house is not going to sell for as much money as if you price it at an aggressive price. We listed a home this past week. We had 11 offers. I knew it was priced a little low. We did that on purpose because that creates more excitement. It creates more activity. You end up getting more money. So you have to be really, really careful with pricing if you are a seller. Now, if you're a buyer, this is actually probably a great time to get into the market, especially if you're somebody who's thinking about selling here and buying out of state. If you are moving to Arizona, Texas, Florida, one of those states where a lot of people from Illinois move. We have a lot of people who move there. Tennessee, they are seeing price reductions there. Now in Florida, there are some areas that are seeing 11% price reductions. That's huge. So what a great opportunity to buy in Florida and sell your house here. We haven't seen the price reductions here very much. I mean, they're coming down very, very slightly, but they're still about the same as they were year over year. So you're not down. We're just not accelerating like we were. So sell your house here, buy in Florida. You are able to buy low and sell high, which is what everybody wants to do. Now, timing the market is almost impossible. So if you are trying to do that, I would say just do what's best for you. But if you were already planning on moving to Florida, now might be a great time to do that. So we've got prices down in Crystal Lake in terms of their original sales price. I'm not saying prices are coming down. I'm saying homes are not selling for the 100% of their sales price like they were. We're at 99.3% in Cary. That's down 0.2%. Again, down very, very slightly. And these are just percentages of what they were originally listed at. So some of these also might have been listed too high to begin with. But we're seeing a little bit of a market correction. We're seeing it normalize. So when you're seeing more price changes, you're seeing longer days on market, you're seeing homes sitting on the market a little bit more, feels like maybe there's some more inventory. Yes, these things are all true. It doesn't mean that we are back in 2008. This is still very, very different from 2008. So if you're a buyer, don't sit around waiting, oh, prices are gonna come down 30%. No, they are not. But we're seeing a little bit of a correction. Buyers are having a little bit more negotiating room on the price in some cases, and we are still seeing a little bit more to choose from. So there's your update on the McHenry County market. We still have a strong market. If you have more questions and specific questions about your situation, please give me a call. I'm at 815-529-0777, or you can always email me, Miranda@mirandaalteam.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your Monday.